Hello and welcome back to Rediscovering You. Today, I am so excited to have a conversation with the amazing Morgan Barkus. Morgan is a body confidence coach, and she helps women feel fabulous in the skin that they are in. And it is something that so many of us women need some help with. And so, Morgan, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
I am really honored. This, I believe, is my first guest spot, so I'm pretty jazzed.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea that this is your first guest spot. I am honored
Yeah.
to be the one that you are on the podcast with. So before meeting you, I didn't even know that body confidence coach was an actual thing that people can do. And now that I've learned about it, I am so jazzed up and I think it's such a valuable space that you are taking up. Can you talk about what it means for you to be a body confidence coach and what inspired you to be on this path?
Absolutely. It's a convoluted and long story. I'll try to be as brief as I can. And I didn't know that it was either. I will have to say, when I first started thinking about coaching, I mean, this was 2013, and I didn't know anything about anything. There weren't a lot of online resources at that time. Someone that I followed was Marie Forleo. I dabbled with Gina DeVries stuff, but mostly Marie Forleo. And it was like, okay, I have a website now, and I still didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what to call myself. I didn't have ideal clients. I didn't have the direction I have now. I would say back then it was more like, I'm a life coach, but that's super general. And then it's like, well, what am I life coaching about? Like, what am I helping? And it wasn't targeted. And then when I actually got serious just recently, so this was the end of 2024, that I finally thought, all right, I really, really would love to be a coach full time. One, because I know it's a passion of mine. I went to school for psychology as an undergraduate because I was just fascinated about human behavior, why people do the things they do, particularly in relationships. As a kiddo, I used to watch people in restaurants and wonder about their stories, like couples,
Mhm.
because I would see a couple sitting there. There was this place we used to go called Tula's, and we went as a family occasionally on Sundays to go get breakfast. And there would be this older couple there. The guy's on an oxygen tank and he's reading the newspaper, and his wife is sitting across. They're not even looking at each other. And I'm thinking, even as a kiddo, I thought, I wonder what their story is.
Mhm.
And so I've always been fascinated about just people and people's behaviors. So anyway, I got my undergraduate in psychology, then went on to get my master's in marriage and family therapy. And even that was a weird, twisty path because I thought, okay, I want to help people. How about I go to law school? And so I actually got into law school because I thought I'll be a social worker with more power. And I got into law school and realized I was a disaster. Like, my brain doesn't work that way. I don't think that way. I would sit in class with folks. There was a guy that would sit behind me, and he was so smart, and he worked for the government. He was like working at the Capitol or something, and we were in contracts, and he would always know the answer. And I'd look behind and think, how does he know that? I got a mentor, a tutor. Law school wasn't my thing. Then I got into school of social work at the University of Minnesota. I went to orientation, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to be a social worker for the rest of my life. And I was like, I don't think this is my atmosphere either. And so I didn't even get past orientation. I didn't even start school for that one. And then got into a PsyD program and to get a doctorate in psychology. And I was sitting there and I thought, I went to that orientation as well, and real stuffy. It felt conservative to
Mhm.
me. I'm just a little too much of a wild child, I think. And I thought, I don't think I want to do this either. I think this is too stuffy for me, and felt a little lost. And the recruiter at the university almost chased me out. He's like, Morgan, well, what about the marriage and family therapy program? And I said, well, can you still own a business with a master's degree? Because in my head, I always wanted to own my own business. And even at that age, I was what, 26, 27, 26, I think. I was like, I want to have my own practice. And so I thought getting a doctorate degree was like the way to go, or the only way to own your own business. And he's like, no, you don't have to have a doctorate degree to put your own shingle out. And I was like, oh, really? Okay, tell me more about this marriage and family therapy. And I got into the program. I went to orientation, and this guy comes blustering in. He had a bow tie on. He was cussing about something. I was like, these are my people. So, because it was just more of a real life program to
Mhm.
me, and the people were relatable, and I ended up unlike law school, doing very, very well in graduate school because it was material that I really enjoyed and I enjoyed the reading. Role plays are a little uncomfortable, of course, as anyone knows that has to do any kind of role play. It's like, oh God. So those were a little harder for me, but the coursework itself, and I just loved it. And I did practice as a therapist for a year. What I didn't love about that was the pay. And
Mhm.
then also I found that, now I can really identify my ideal client. Back then, you're a therapist, you just kind of work with whoever needs outpatient therapy. And so I was getting the 25-year-old gentleman, alcoholic, still living with his parents and struggling to figure out his life. And then unfortunately, a young lady in high school cutting and because her anxiety was so high and so many
Mhm.
expectations were on her. So, and again, worthy causes, just not my jam. And
Yeah.
I felt like I was eating people's feelings. And I thought, this is physically making me ill. Like I really, I started to feel ill inside from the inside out. And I thought, this isn't my path either. And when I really thought about what made me happiest, it was teaching dance and fitness to women. And it was the everyday woman who I remember there was a gal who took one of my classes and she had a dynamite tattoo on her ankle because she had gotten out of a divorce. She wasn't feeling super sexy and she wanted to feel powerful, confident, and sexy again. And that was awesome. And then I had this gal that was like high up in some kind of corporate setting. I mean, we're talking high up, left with a beautiful retirement package. And now is traveling the world with her husband. We stay in touch, so I was getting like the business gals, the divorcees, the gal that was feeling a little insecure about her body. And so I loved watching them fall in love with themselves. And oftentimes they would come in feeling like, oh, I'm going to take this class and I'm going to feel sexy for my partner.
Mhm.
And then it got to the point they didn't even care about their partner. They were so happy for themselves and felt so empowered in their own bodies that they were like, yeah, I'll dance for my partner, but this is for me. Like this is,
Uh-huh.
and it was that feeling of helping women in that way.
Mhm.
And so all that to say, then when I moved to South Florida and I thought, I'm gonna put out my shingle finally online and start an online coaching business. I still didn't have that clarity. And now,
Mhm.
fast forward all these years later, and I finally buckled down and got myself a business coach because I really do believe, just like there's a time and a place when you need a therapist. I've been there. I've had a few in my life. I've had a couple coaches in my life. There's certain times in your life where you're like, I need to call in some reinforcement. I need to figure this out. I need a different perspective. I need some tips and tricks. I need some accountability or whatever it is. And so anyway, I finally hired a business coach and the program that you and I are both in. And it just gave me not only the accountability, it gave me the direction. It gave me the Morgan. You don't just slap up a website and be like, yay, isn't it beautiful? It's who do you want to serve and why? And so for me, first I started off as I'll be an empowerment coach. Well, then I started Googling empowerment coaches, and a lot of them, awesome women helping other women in a corporate setting, like speak up for themselves or change their career or like it was different. It was more of a like a business confidence coach, if you
Yeah.
will, or like blooming in your professional space. And I was like, well, maybe I'm not an empowerment coach. I mean, yes, I empower women. What am I empowering them with? And then I thought, okay, I'll be a confidence coach. But then I thought, well, you can be confident in a lot of things. I thought, boy, and when I really worked with my business coach, it was like, who are you serving? Like truly,
Mhm.
what is lighting you up? And I figured it out when I was talking to a woman like you, like we kind of connect with these women in this similar program that we're in. And she and I were chatting, and she was talking about her business, which is completely unrelated to mine. And I was talking about why I get so fired up and what I get fired up about. And it continued to come back to women
Mhm.
loving their body. Like, why are you so hung up on this image, this unrealistic thing that you don't even know that you saw online is real? It could be photoshopped. Or we're not Cindy Crawford and we never will. And that's okay because that's not what is attractive to our partner. He doesn't expect us to be Cindy Crawford. And so it always kept coming back to this body confidence thing. And I thought, well, it's narrowing me down, but really it's just a focus. Now it's like I help women love the body they're in. Because yes, I'm all about fitness and eating healthy and being the best version of yourself. Absolutely. This is a special vessel. We only have one of them, as far as we know, in this lifetime at least, and we need to take care of it. Absolutely. And it might not be what you see in the magazines or in the movies or on the social media, and that's okay. And so I've had to come to terms with that with myself because I used to have crazy expectations. And so anyway, I feel like now the body confidence is just, yes, take care of yourself and appreciate the body you have. It's perfectly perfect the way it is. So all that to say, that's how I got to the body confidence.
No, I really love that you shared your story because, I think when we put ourselves out there and give ourselves a title, people can quickly or readily think like, oh, it was so easy for you to just figure out and identify, I'm going to be a body confidence coach. This is what I want to do. But I think it's really important to share that it is a journey. Like you need to try on different hats. You need to go down different paths and see what fits for you. And the more you put yourself out there, the more you try different things, you will know inherently what feels right for you and what doesn't feel right for you. And you have landed yourself so squarely in a space that I can just see lights you up. You feel so passionate about, and it's something that is so important because we as women, at this particular age in our lives, are feeling really a lot of feelings about how our bodies are changing. And there are feelings about our bodies don't just impact one particular area. It kind of transcends and goes into all other aspects of our lives. Because if we're not confident and feeling great about ourselves in our own skin, think about what that means for your relationship with your partner or how you show up in your career or how you parent your children. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about what are some of the most that you see pop up in the women that you work with?
Constant comparison. It's hard not to do. I get it. I'm in the age of no internet growing up, in the 90s. And so back then it was Teen Bop magazine or whatever the heck it was, and there was 17 magazine, and we had movies too. This is flashing in my head all of a sudden. One of my favorite actors is Brad Pitt. I saw him the first time ever in a movie, River Runs Through It, when I was a teenager at the movie theater. And I was like, who is that man? And at that time, I couldn't Google him because there was no Google. Well, he's the hottest guy I've ever seen in my life. And then eventually I think I saw him in a magazine or something. I'm like, oh my God, he's on. So then I watched every movie I could get my hands on. And one of them was Meet Joe Black. And I say that because the woman in the movie, the main character, is very thin. And I used to, even though my body type is nothing like hers, I was like, I wish I could be like that. There was this, and again, my genetics aren't like that, and that's okay. And at that time, it was like, oh, I wish I could be that skinny. And so and then you can even notice too when you're with your girlfriends, because I say again, this is before internet. Get together with any group of girls or walk into a room of women you don't even know. For some reason, even if you don't want to, you find yourself comparing yourself to the women in the room, or you watch them do a scan. Men scan for a different reason, but women scan each other to critique her and then also think about themselves, compared to this girl, this or that, and there's the compare. And I think, man, that goes back to even my grandmother has long passed. I remember her saying something. We were in the car and this friend of hers that she'd known for years got out of the car and was walking toward her house. And she goes, I'm not that fat, am I? And I was like, and I'm just a kid. And I was like, no, and she was always giving up sweets for Lent and, whatever. And so it was this constant battle with herself. And this was a woman who was born in the 80s or whatever, so it's been there for decades. And so I would say the comparison thing is one of the biggest and the most challenging, because it can start with hearing your mom, your auntie, your grandmother compare herself to others, and then you start doing it, or you hear other women do it. Even if I do my best not to, because I don't do that anymore. If anything, I'm like, you go girl. Like that, if I see a woman that's gorgeous and I'm like, you are just stunning, and I'll just tell people your eyes are so beautiful. And they'll be like, oh my God, thank you. So now I look at women and I look for the compliment that I want to give them rather than something that I'm ready to critique or compare myself to. And it's hard because it's all around us and other women will do it. And it's kind of it's something that I either don't respond to or I try to turn around in my own way. And, oh, I think she's gorgeous because of XYZ or whatever. So I would say that one's the biggest one.
Yes, yes. I think comparison with women is everywhere, and it does happen both consciously and subconsciously. And I am relating in my own life, thinking back growing up and hearing my grandma or my aunt making comments about bodies and how it's just like normalized and how damaging that is. I think I love your strategy that you just shared about thinking about compliments that you can share and lifting other women up and celebrating them when they look fabulous, not being afraid to tell them. And it doesn't take away from your own inherent beauty just because somebody else happens to be beautiful in their unique, special way. But this is a hard thing to unlearn in our society. Do you have any other strategies or ideas to help women get out of that comparison cycle with other women and really be more happy with their own body or celebratory of other women? How else can we break that cycle?
It's like any other thing in our life, intention and
Mhm.
practice and repetition. I mean, think about working out. Not a ton of people are like, yay, can't wait to go work out. Like, it's just a lot of people don't want to work out. They see it as torture or punishment for eating or whatever it is. And then if you start to move your body every single day, even if it's 10 minutes, then it just becomes part of your day and you actually like look forward to it. Positive versus negative self-talk. I mean, I read the book You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay way college days for me. So that was I'm what almost 45. I was 21 back then, and I had so much negative self-talk. It was unreal
Mhm.
how mean I was to myself. It's like I would never talk to someone else like this. And then when I read that book, and I every single day would do positive affirmations instead. At first, I was like, "Yeah, right, sure. I don't believe this." And then you say it over and over again. Now I was looking for the positive, not the negative, or I would change, reframe. So let's say someone does something because we all make a mistake. I don't know, write the wrong number down or something. And some people are like, "Oh my God, I'm so stupid." You're not stupid. You're like, this is kind of funny. Look at this silly thing I did. Because it's not who you are. So then I started to like reframe something I did that it wasn't me. It was just like a silly thing I did. Or it's as simple as stubbing your toe and you're like, oh, it's going to be one of those kind of days. Instead, I'll be like, I laugh and have a chuckle at myself and look how clumsy I just was, So to me, it's about reframing and then repeating. So you got to catch yourself. I mean, to me, everything is with intention too. If you do walk in a room and immediately you start to feel insecure because you're like, well, my hair's not as thick as that girl's, and wow, she's got really long legs. I wish I had long legs like that, and you catch yourself because that's probably just like negative self-talk. It's the automatic because it's so easy and it's something you're so
Mhm.
used to doing. The pattern is there. You got to break that pattern, shut her down,
Yeah.
and change it. And the more you do that, the more it changes. So truly, it's the intention of catching yourself and then reframing and then repeating it over and over until you don't do it anymore. Having a background like I did, like I went in, so I wanted to go to graduate school. Like I said, I didn't know what, but I wanted to go to graduate school. Then when I finally figured it out and said, okay, I'm going to go get my master's in marriage and family therapy, how am I going to go to school full time and be able to pay my bills? And so I started dancing. And, I went into the industry thinking, oh my God, I got to be perfect. I better drop some pounds. I better like figure out how to do my makeup exactly. I was at Mac, like show me how to do the smoky eyes, and I had all these expectations of what I was supposed to do walking in. I didn't want to be the ugly duckling or, the girl that didn't fit in or whatever. And come to find out, I walked into this atmosphere that's, dominated obviously by women. And boy, there wasn't the comparison. They were like, girl, you look great. What do you do? Like it was always, I mean, people didn't walk in and cut each other down. It was, it was very much it's not what you think. I'll tell you that right now. It's different. Women will compliment each other and be curious, especially when I moved to Miami because it's so multicultural. I was, it was different because when I lived in Minnesota, most of the women were white women, Scandinavian white women. Then I go down to Florida and it was like, I was like the new white girl, and they're like, oh my God, where are you from? And it was so hair, your hair is really cute. And it was always more complimentary. So I think it was being surrounded by women, like-minded women helps
Mhm,
too. I feel
mhm.
like, and same when I taught dance and fitness for women, I had this gal, she was awesome. She was a very private person because she was a parole officer. So she had no social media. She didn't
Right.
really share a lot about herself. And for her, coming to the studio was like a safe space. There was some anonymity. It was just women. She said, and she really, and she was beautiful and kept herself in shape and all that. And she said to me one day, she said, she was at some kind of neighborhood barbecue or something. And she walked in and all these women were like looking at her, like all of a sudden grabbing their husbands, like she was going to come and snatch them all up. And she said, Morgan, it was so uncomfortable. And I forgot that when I'm at the studio around all the women, it's a safe space. Like we're all here to support each other, lift each other up. We're not comparing ourselves. We're not tearing each other's down in any way or like jealous of each other. And we're all so different. I mean, ages, sizes, like careers, like everybody was so different, and yet we were all there to just have fun and feel confident and sexy and powerful. And it isn't like that, basically, is what she's saying in the real world. Yes, and you got to create your community. And I would never
Mhm.
encourage folks to just like cut people out of their life completely if it's a family member or someone, a longtime friend. And there's some boundary setting that might have to be done. And there's a book behind me that Melissa Urban wrote on boundaries. I think it's just called Boundaries. And it's an excellent book. If you haven't read it, highly recommend it. And I highly recommend following her on the Instagram, Melissa Urban. She's the one that wrote Whole 30. So she also did that. Anyway, just really setting up proper boundaries with folks, because if you are around women that are talking nasty about other women or cutting themselves down all the time, you can set up boundaries. Hey, when we're together, let's only talk about how great we are. Pick something. Like your hair feels so soft and fluffy today, and I feel like a superstar. Because there's things you can do to encourage yourself and others to be more positive. Anyway, so that's a really long answer, all kinds of ideas, but I would say that really comes down to the intention, like
Yeah.
stopping yourself, reframing it, and then repeating that until the pattern is broken, because it can be broken, but it is going to take you actually putting in the effort.
Have you found that with your positive attitude, lifting other people and you being positive in yourself, have you, like, just in essence of being yourself, have the people in the community and the friends and family around you, have you noticed any shifts in their behaviors just on being around you with your positive attitude?
That's a nice question. Thank you. I would say what I get most in terms of feedback is I need a little bit of Morgan. Like some people, they'll be like, I need some Morgan. So if it's like, and I've said like, I'm a ray of sunshine or I'm a breath of fresh air, because I say it like it is. And I also try to lift up. And this goes back even way back to high school before I really even knew about all this personal development stuff, and I wasn't doing it intentionally. I have one girlfriend of mine that I keep in touch with from high school. And all these years later, we still check in on each other. And she said, you were always a cheerleader for me. You never said anything negative about other people or me, or you always were positive. And I'm like, huh. Like even as a teenager, and teenagers can kind of be jerks a lot of times because they're just socially, they're not totally developed yet. And I'm really honored and proud that I was, even in those days, not perfect by any stretch, I'm sure. And she felt safe with me. And I thought, wow, that's really awesome. And then, like I said, now all these years later, I have good girlfriends of mine that'll say, oh, I needed to hear that. I needed a little dose of Morgan, or, and so I think that rubs off. And also, even I have a fun story about my mom. She has a hard time taking compliments, or she
Mhm.
used to. And I mean, a lot of people like that. They'll be like, "Oh, this old thing," or
Yeah.
or oh, they'll like someone will compliment them. And my mom is gorgeous. Like people will be like, "Wow, she's stunning." And she used to have a hard time. She would minimize it. And one day I just said, "Mom, can I ask you something?" I was like, when people compliment you, you minimize it. How come you do that? And she's like, I don't know. And then she started catching herself, and she changed it, and she would just say, thank you. Because sometimes it's hard to take it in. And then I met chatted with another girlfriend of mine who used to take my exotic dance and fitness classes, and we still stay in touch too. And this is way back. This was like 2003 to 2010. Like it was way back, and we still stay in touch. And she said, we were talking about something, and she's like, well, Minnesota, we're not supposed to brag, and we're not supposed to get a big head. I said, who says you're bragging? Who told you that story? And she's like, well, your parent. So depending on like how you grew up, where you grew up, different cultural norms and or just family dynamics, it's like, don't get a big head or,
Mhm.
don't be arrogant or, it's like, nah, just be confident in yourself. There's no reason you can't say, you're right. I am beautiful, or I am really a happy person, or, whatever it is. If someone compliments you, because I had complimented her and she tried to minimize it. And I was like, why did you just try to push that away or push it down? She's like, I don't know. So I think owning, because that's the other thing. You give another woman a compliment, and either she tries to minimize it or she lights up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Recently, where was I? Well, even, and this for guys too, there was a young man working at Office Depot, and boy, not a great job. There's like no one in the store, super boring. And he had this like kind of shaggy dark hair, but he had these beautiful dark black eyelashes. And I could tell he was checking me out. And he was like, in his head, I hate this job. I hate this job. And I looked at him, I'm like, you have fantastic eyelashes. He literally stood up a little different and he was like, thank you. And he was a young man, so embarrassed all the same. But it completely changed his whole demeanor just to get a compliment. And so I think if more women did that to each other, that'd be really awesome. I'm like, spread the love.
Great. Like, yes, I love that story too. Like, one compliment, your words have the power to like change somebody's whole outlook for the day. So
Yeah.
use your words wisely. And I agree with the people that say you're a ray of sunshine and like needing a dose of Morgan. It's like you really are. Being around you, it's just so positive. And I can't imagine how it wouldn't rub off on other people in a positive way and have a positive impact on them.
Well, thank you.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm guessing that there's a lot of women out there that have body image issues, but haven't clocked it consciously themselves that like, oh, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and it's because like I have like these issues with my body. And I'm wondering like how might it show up? Like what are some symptoms or some red flags or things that might be popping up for women where there might be some underlying confidence issues that they're having that is having like it's oozing into different aspects or parts of their life. Like I'm not sure if I'm articulating that in a way that you understand what I'm asking.
No, it's an amazing question. My brain's going, oh my God, over here, over here, over here, over here. Because the first thing I thought was any kind of food distraction and or obsession. So instead of, because people ask me, what do you eat? What do you do? Do you count macros? Do you like, are you on a keto diet? And I say, I eat whatever I want. And I know my body. Yes, I do love pizza. And if I eat it, even if I eat it in the early afternoon, I know I will sleep terrible that night. And then the next day, I'm going to feel bloated and I'm not going to want to put out those workout pants on. And then I might not work out, or I might just feel overall not good. So I don't want to eat that. So I would say I don't have food battles anymore. I
Mhm.
used to fight myself all the time. Should I eat it? Should I not? Should I not? And if I do, should I just like go all out and then like eat the entire bag of Oreos? Because now I
Mhm.
already screwed up. So it's
Might as
like
well eat
this
the whole thing. Yeah.
constant food chatter. And so it's like instead of just what do I feel like eating? And that you're free to eat whatever you want. Because there are mornings, especially I used to live in South Florida, and on Saturdays I would go to work at the old strip joint and I'd work like 11 to 7 or 8 in the morning. I'd go home. I might catch a couple hours of sleep. And then I'd get up around 10 or 11. I'd go to Whole Foods down the street. And I mind you, this is South Florida. So it's super warm and it's breezy and there's palm trees. And I would go get a cup of coffee and I would get a freshly baked brown butter cookie. It's a chocolate chip brown butter cookie. And I would sit there and I'd watch people and I'd eat my cookie and drink my coffee. And I loved it. And
Amazing.
I knew that that wouldn't catapult me into some kind of, oh my God, I'm disgusting. I can't believe I did that. And why did I do that? No, no, now I already fell off the rails. I might fall off the rails for the entire day. No, no. If you're so obsessed about everything that's happening in your body, you can't even just have a cookie for breakfast if you want it. We'll probably got a little bit of some issues.
Mhm.
I would say another one is your sex life. If you don't want to be naked, probably got a little problem
Mhm.
because and I'm speaking mostly for heterosexual females, but really anybody. If you are like, I don't know, I'm feeling kind of fat, or I had a hamburger for lunch and now I'm feeling a little bloated. Whoever your partner is just happy you're naked and does not care that you had a hamburger for lunch or you're feeling bloated for whatever reason. Like it's just like I'm naked and let's do this. There's a freedom. I guess it comes down to freedom because that was my biggest hang up. I was never free. I was always thinking about what I was going to eat, how much of it I was going to eat. What if I wanted to go out with friends and go to a restaurant? Oh my God, what are they going to serve? And what if I overeat? Should I not eat at all? What if I eat too fast? What if I don't eat? Then people are going to comment on it. Like there was this always this lack of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, if I do this today, then I'll starve myself tomorrow. Like again, there's just this terrible like fighting with yourself. And then, like I said, the insecurity is obvious if you're like, well, I can't wear that because I look like this or that, or I don't look like her in that outfit, or it's like dress for your body type. Don't fight it. I used to wear a hair. This is a different, but it's a comparison. I got two cowlicks. I got one in the front and one in the back. Which one am I going to fight? Okay. So, you know what? I don't want to fight the one in the front anymore. So now I have a center part and the colic in the back just does what it does. It's not as noticeable to me. Cool. Like I got to work with what I got. And I say that because our body type is you got what you got. I'm 5'3", short legs, short torso. My mom, she's got legs for days. She's gorgeous. She's tall. That's not my body type. I used to like hate it, wish I could be like her. It wasn't me. And I was like, it wasn't until my mid to late 20s where I was like, you know what? I'm short, I'm curvy. Let's do this. Let me fall in love with this. This is what it is. Let me dress for it. I can't wear certain things because I don't have legs for days. It's not going to work for me. Cool. And so really, like I said, the insecurity is like finding the reasons you can't do something or you're confined in some way. And then when you're free. You're like, this is who I am. This is how I am. Take it or leave it. And I'm going to eat to nourish my body and have some fun when I want to. If I want to have a cookie for breakfast with my coffee, it's just a freedom that I think women that feel insecure don't have. They're constantly confined to their thinking or this prison they've built or put their own selves in. And I was there. I know it. I used to be so depressed about it that I literally wanted to not wake up in the morning sometimes. I was like, I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want to face another day where I have to figure out what I'm going to eat all day or worry about how I feel in this body instead of just being in this body. And it was exhausting, to be honest. And it was really hard. I wasn't present in my life. I wasn't present in relationships. I wasn't even present with myself. And so when you were talking about like, the areas it affects in your body or your life, it's not just your body. It's like, if you're in a relationship, you're not going to dinner and just having a wonderful time. You're constantly in your head about it and you're not actually present with the people that you're with, or you're at work and you're not really thinking about, because now you're thinking about when you're going to eat and what should you eat. And well, if I eat that, I shouldn't eat that. And well, I shouldn't do that because I'm feeling fat today, whatever. It's this constant state of, like I said, confinement and exhaustion where if you're feeling confident in yourself, you're just free to be you.
And that's the goal. I mean, that is where it's at. Is like just being free, being yourself, loving yourself. What's one piece of advice that if you could turn back the clock to give to your younger self when you were in the throes of really, struggling the most with your own body image issues? If you could go back and speak to your younger self, what would you want her to know?
Well, then there's a lot of things going through my brain right now. I was seeking all the time. I watched so many Oprah episodes, I couldn't even tell you. I read so many books and so much therapy. Honestly, what came to my head is nourish your body how it's supposed to. And here's 3 books to read. Like, because I was always seeking, like, is there something wrong with me? It was like I was looking for something. And this sounds almost crazy pants, but when I read the book, Why We Get Fat by Gary Taubes, for me, it was the first time that it wasn't these fad diets and it wasn't scare tactics. It was like, here's the science. And I was like, I haven't been nourishing my body. I've been doing all these things and I haven't just eaten what my body needs so that I'm satiated so that I can go and do all these other things in my life. I was so obsessed about food and that it was affecting everything else in my life. It was occupying so much time and so much space. And then it was like, oh, so this is how I nourish my body. Now I can go do all these other things. And it was a game changer for me. And then the other thing I would say is I can't I can't help not recognize how consumed I was with images I saw in magazines and things like that, and this ideal perfectness. And I mean, when you're younger, nobody can tell you anything. I mean, you're like until you experience it for yourself. So I would probably tell her there is a lot more to see in this world and a lot more people to meet before you make this decision about how your body should look. Because I remember even when I went to college, I mean, I grew up in an all white town in
Mhm.
Wisconsin, right? So the ideal on that alone, I mean, it's not very multicultural. There's not a whole lot of different opinions out there. It was like around me at high school and 17 magazine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, when I was anorexic in high school, the skinnier I got, the girls were like, "Wow, you look great. How are
Mhm.
you doing this?" The guys were like, "Are you behind my back talking to my brother asking if I was terminally ill? Like, is something wrong with
Yeah.
Morgan? Is she dying? Is she sick? Because you're so skinny, you look like you're dying."
Yeah.
And so, and then I went away to college and I'm around all these women from all over the world. And they're like, "Girl, women this as skinny as you, they think you're poor because you can't afford to eat."
Wow.
And I was like, "Really?" So I was like, "Big butts are in, huh? A little bit, little waist, big buns, and good thighs. You want to be strong." And I was like, "Huh." So I guess I tell her, read more books and travel because this little world around you is not what you should be setting your standards to because there's a whole lot of other perspectives in the world. And like I said, when I went away to college and this girl told me, women as skinny as me would be considered dirt poor because they can't afford to eat, I was like, wow. And here I am in a, middle class privileged society and position in this country, and I'm over here starving myself to be skinny. What? When there's more than enough food to eat, why am I doing this?
Right.
So I guess those would be the two things: is like read that book and nourish your body correctly instead of being obsessed with counting calories and macros and tracking everything. Just eat
Yeah.
intuitively,
Yeah.
and then also make sure you look at some other perspectives because there's a lot more in the world than this tiny little community that you're from. This isn't the truth.
There's so much wisdom in what you just said. Yes, I agree with all of that. That is so powerful. So, can you talk a bit about how what your coaching program looks like and how people might be able to get in touch with you if they are wanting to learn more and connect with you?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. So I do coaching and body confidence coaching, obviously. And the program I have is Lose the Midlife Belly because midlife hormones change, activity level changes, priorities change. And sometimes we just pick up some weight and we're like, where is this coming from? Why am I all of a sudden my energy level is not what it used to be? Or I'm just kind of feeling frumpy and forgotten. And I don't know how I'm feeling about this whole aging thing. And it's not easy. And with someone to hold you accountable, someone to talk to about it, just talking about it can be really helpful and setting realistic expectations for yourself.
Mhm.
And so for me, it's a three-part situation. It's like, how are we eating? That is simple because I'm not the gal that's going to give you a bunch of complex recipes because guess what? I don't cook. I prioritize protein. I get my fruits and veggies. I eat out a lot, but I know what to eat when I eat out. I know
Right.
where to eat when I eat out. And I love good food. I do. I love to eat and I know how to eat so that I stay as lean as I want to be. At this time in my life in my mid 40s. Then we also talk about how to move your body. It's changed. You're older. You just don't have the stamina. I used to do the CrossFit and the Orange Theory, and I was sprinting and I was going for a run, and I don't do that anymore. I mean, one, who's got the time, and two, I'm not working out to torture myself anymore. It's like I have to work out because I want to eat this thing. No, or I ate that thing, so now I gotta punish myself for eating that
Mhm.
pint of ice cream. Now it's like I want to be healthy. I want to be flexible. So it's changing how you move your body and what's really important and what feels good and what's enjoyable. Because I think a lot of it's helping. I want to help women figure out what they like. Like some people are into Zumba. You do you. I don't like it. I lasted 5 minutes in a Zumba class once. I was like, woo, not for me. And I just slipped out the side. Not for me. That being said, there is a way to move your body, and rather than working out to get a certain weight or do a certain thing. It's do it because you love it and it feels good to move your body. And helping women figure that out and
Yeah.
turning it into something that they can't wait to go do rather than like, oh, I gotta go work out. So changing that for them and figuring that out with them. And then lastly is the mindset stuff and just really being consistent and breaking it down into smaller chunks. Because I mean, if I say, you know what, Laura, you got to work out every day for the rest of your life. But you know what? If you say, can you move your body 10 minutes every single day? It's like, yeah, and so, and figuring out how to do that and have me as your accountability partner to build that up so that by the time you're like, I got this now, I'm a train full of steam and I got this. And now it's not the rest of my life. It's today. And I'm going to go move my body today and I can't wait. And I'm going to go make the time to do that. Not I have to. So that's basically the coaching program and kind of dive into the body lineage stuff too. There's a podcast I really love called We Can Do Hard Things with Glennon Doyle and Abby Wambach and Sister, as they call her. And they had a gal on that talked about intuitive eating, and she mentioned the body lineage, and I was like, oh, that's so important because I come from the marriage and family therapy degree I got is like a systems therapy more than other, every degree has kind of a different focus or the way that they look at people and their behaviors or whatever. And so I was trained in a systems theory where it's we are part of a system. We are part of generations of how we've connected with friends and family and how we think about our body comes from that too. So diving into some of that stuff and figuring out where that comes from. So anyway, so yeah, it's a 90-day coaching program. And if people love it, they can always carry on and do another 90 days. And everything is at morganbarkus.com. Super easy.
Sounds amazing. Wonderful. Thank you, Morgan, so much for being on the podcast today and for the wisdom that you shared and the insight that you shared and the incredible positivity that you bring in everything that you do. It's been an honor to speak with you today.
Thanks, Laura. I appreciate you having me.